What you don't know can hurt you, and what you do know can set you free. That's why we interview subject matter experts for your small to medium-sized business and personal finances, because knowledge is power, but experience is everything. Welcome to The Tipping Point. The Tipping Point is brought to you in part by Tirani and Velez LLP, your tax and accounting subject matter experts. Welcome to the show, everybody. I'm your host, Gabriel Velez. Our guest today is Jordan Cross, Vice President and Principal at Cross Plans. The goal at Cross Plans is to assist employers in achieving their retirement and wealth accumulation goals through the use of qualified retirement plans. They accomplish this by helping employers understand what the benefits of the different retirement arrangements are, followed by implementation and compliance. Hey, Jordan.
Hey, Gabe.
Welcome to the show. Thanks for coming on, man.
Hey,
I appreciate you,
bud. No, it's exciting.
Yeah, very good. Good to have you on. There's a lot of things that we can go through, but first off, what the heck is a TPA, a third party administrator?
Third party administrator. I think that is one of the things that we have to clarify all the time. Nobody grows up wanting to be a TPA, and most people don't know what a TPA even is. But we occupy a unique area of financial services, doing things that you guys as CPAs don't do and doing things that financial advisors don't do. So in this space, a non-producing TPA, somebody who doesn't do investments, doesn't manage money, what we do is we partner with CPAs and financial advisors to build qualified retirement plans for business owners and for companies. So we'll look at a plan, a company, and say, hey, what are their needs? What kind of retirement vehicle are they looking for? Is it for wealth accumulation, tax deduction? Are they looking to create an employee benefit for retention and recruiting? And we really become the architect of that strategy, looking to help the business owner solve the problems that they're looking to address. And then we manage the tax form filings, the calculations. Our firm, as an actuarial consulting firm, can manage the computations around defined benefit plans. So we really look to help businesses set up those qualified vehicles.
Got it. Okay. So compliance, implementation,
administration, filing,
yeah,
making sure that the right people got the right match, making sure that your profit sharing calculations are within tax code compliance. Really, at the end of the day, our job is to take something that's really complicated, right?
Yeah.
The tax code, and simplify it for business owners so that they feel good about their 401k. People love talking about retirement plans. Whether you're on the golf course or at a family party, they want to talk about all the things they love, all the things that they don't love. And often it's the complexity of the tax code and the cost of implementing them that slow people down. And our goal is to streamline that process, create efficiencies, and make it simple so that business owners and their employees are happy with the retirement plan the company is offering.
Awesome. So what is a qualified plan? There are different types of retirement arrangements, right?
Yeah.
And they're not all qualified. What is a qualified plan?
Exactly. So really, if we wanted to delve into the history, going back to 1978, when ERISA and the tax code kind of started to formalize around qualified retirement plans, what we're talking about are vehicles that a business can set up that when they make contributions from a corporate level, the qualified status means that they're getting corporate level tax deduction, that those contributions are protected under Title I of ERISA from creditors or debitors. And often we're adding 401k features that allow employees to make contributions to their plans as well, generating personal tax deduction. And so those deductibility opportunities are what make it a qualified retirement plan, along with the protection under the tax code. Now, you have to stay in compliance. You have to keep the plan at various levels. That's our job as an ERISA consultant and TPA. But the qualified nature really is about the deduction and the deductibility of the contributions.
Got it. Okay. And then these qualified plans, they pretty much come in two different flavors, right? Like defined benefit and defined contribution.
That's right. Yeah, no, great. Gabe, you're digging into it real quick. I hope your listeners are ready. Yeah. So when we look at the universe, we bifurcate it into two groups: defined contribution plans, where we define the contribution for that year. How much 401k? how much matching, how much profit sharing.
Yeah.
Are we doing safe harbor? We define that contribution every year, subject to IRS limits and tax code limits for that year. A defined benefit plan or a pension plan, a DB plan, the term du jour these days is cash balance. Cash balance is a type of defined benefit plan that has the look and the feel of a defined contribution plan, meaning it's easier to explain to employers and to employees, but it's still a defined benefit plan. A defined benefit plan defines a benefit at retirement. So we're not just looking at each year, we're looking at the lifetime of a plan. We're looking at what Gabe's lifetime contribution opportunities may be, and then setting up a vehicle that more or less on a linear trajectory is taking the plan to that defined benefit status down the road. Often, and in 2019, 2020, we see a lot more business owners, we see a lot more plan sponsors setting up defined contribution plans.
Yeah.
But for businesses with regular and recurring income, stable employee demographics, a defined benefit plan is the home run. It's the grand slam, actually. It is the most sophisticated vehicle to create wealth accumulation and tax deduction. Because when we define that benefit down the road, we're able to generate more opportunities to put in larger and more significant contributions.
Yeah, in my practice, what we see a lot is a lot of health professionals going with the defined benefit plans, just because they have typically smaller, they don't have as many employees to kind of contribute for.
Right.
And specifically health professionals, they typically start accumulating retirement funds later on in life because they're busy paying off the debt, right?
Totally.
Early on in life. So.
And I think that's true with all professional services corporations, where, maybe there's some student debt, maybe they started a large firm, then they start their own. And as you and I both well know, the costs and stress involved with starting your own business and growing your own business, it's kind of the shoemaker's son, right? You don't worry about, the shoemaker's son has no shoes. You don't worry about your own retirement plan because you're trying to get your business off the ground. But often those professional service corporations become the most target-rich environments for defined benefit plans. I know we're going to talk about it a little bit later, but I don't want your listeners to think a DB plan is specifically for a professional services corp or a health professional.
Right.
Because with the recent tax law changes, we're seeing a lot more opportunities for businesses of all sizes and shapes to explore the value of defined benefit plans, or even further optimizing their own profit sharing plans and provisions to generate more tax deduction. But yeah, the DB plan, it has the bigger deductions, the bigger contributions, has some more rigidity to it. It has some more rules around it. So the DB plan, the defined benefit cash balance plans, are a much more consultative sale. It isn't just like, let's go buy a DB plan. We spend a lot of time talking about the permanency requirements, talking about whether or not a business had one great year or is building towards a profit level. And that's why you guys as CPAs are so crucial in setting up a defined benefit plan, because a plan sponsor or a business should always have their CPAs sign off on setting up something as complicated as a defined benefit plan. In our little world, we manage a very small niche. We manage just the retirement plan. CPAs like yourself, good CPAs like your firm, holistically manage the entire puzzle. And so often we'll set up a defined benefit plan and be able to say, hey, Mr. Business Owner, you're getting 90% of the benefit. And then the CPA gets on the phone and says, Mr. Business Owner, you can't afford that, and you're not going to be able to afford it.
Right.
So it's really important that it's a collaborative team approach. And that's the value that a local ERISA consultant and TPA firm brings, is bringing those opportunities and options to the table without overcommitting for a client, just to ring a bell and get a sale.
Yeah. So why is it that your defined contribution plans are more popular? It used to be that back in before I started working, right? That an employee would stay with the company their whole life, and they'd retire from that company, and they'd end up with a pension,
get a golden watch and a pension.
Totally.
Pension,
So
I think the evolution really, as we look back to the early 80s and the advent of the 401k feature, was I think twofold. One, I think the rise of the 401k feature gave businesses and corporations an off-ramp to start backing away the defined benefit plan, putting the onus or the responsibility on employees to contribute to their own retirement and save. And I think that as we have seen businesses that are larger, the Kellogg's, the Pepsi's, and large corporations, the defined benefit plan starts to become an albatross around those companies. When you have a lot of people retiring at the same time, when you have enormous workforces, or you have some challenging computation elements, DB plans can be a significant and sometimes catastrophic expense for businesses.
Yeah.
But the defined contribution plan, because we're defining that contribution each year, there's a little bit more latitude. There's a little bit more flexibility. A business owner knows their outlay and can predict their outlay a little bit easier on a year-to-year basis. That's why we talk about defining the contribution for that plan. So I think the personal responsibility, having employees contribute to their own retirement savings. I think the popularity of the 401k. And then I just think about the perceptions around retirement, and that kind of golden watch and retirement going away has led more businesses to first explore the 401k. And then hopefully with our help, once they get comfortable funding the profit sharing or maximizing contributions, explore defined benefit plans as well.
Yeah, maybe it would be a good idea to kind of talk about contribution levels and like
Yeah.
how much you can put away at each level, right? So
Yeah.
like 401k, an employee can defer from their paycheck
That's
up
right.
to what, $19,000 now, right?
This year, 19.5. So
19.5, yeah.
every year the IRS increases the COLA, the cost of living adjustment. So for 2020,
Yeah.
you can contribute 19,500 if you're 49 years or younger,
Mhm.
and at age 50, you're eligible for catch-up contributions for an extra 6,500. So this year the limits are 19.5 or $26,000 out of an individual's personal paycheck. That's what they can contribute. Then, under every retirement plan, whether or not a business utilizes it, mostly you're going to be able to put in another $37,000 or $38,000 of total contribution, whether
Mhm.
that's match or profit sharing. And it's really important to acknowledge that match and profit sharing, which are wonderful vehicles for employees,
Mhm.
help employees save and plan for retirement, helps a business owner recruit and retain employees. Those are also dollar for dollar corporate deductions to the
Right.
business. So funding match or profit sharing, while our goal is to make sure it's efficient and makes sense for the business owner, a rising tide raises all boats in ERISA because we have compliance and non-discrimination.
Mhm.
So a business that sets up a profit sharing plan or a matching plan really is doing so to help the business owner and the employees and reduce their corporate contribution or corporate taxes by putting this money into the plan. So on the defined contribution side, you got the 19.5 and the 26 and the opportunity for another 37,000 or so. The defined benefit plan has much higher limits.
Yeah.
You could be contributing upwards of $225,000 for an employee, and a business with significant income, high income earners could be putting away $1 million in total defined benefit contributions.
Yeah.
The variables are significant and the goalposts always change, but the DB plan is really the accelerant for wealth accumulation and tax deduction.
Yeah, I think back to what you were talking about, the CPA firm or the tax and accounting firm being kind of the catalyst for the
Yeah.
introduction to you, right? Because anytime we're looking at tax savings or accounting or setting anything up like that, we're looking at the cost benefit,
Right.
right? So what is our goal and what is the most efficient way to get there?
Yep.
And so, it doesn't make sense for a business owner who only wants to put $50,000 away to set up a DB plan. 'Cause
Exactly.
the administrative burden and like the promise to the employees is too great at that point.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah. And I think that's one of the areas. And if we have time and we delve into the 199A deduction story,
Yeah.
2017 Tax Cuts and Jobs Act really brought some clarity to some interesting deduction strategies.
Yeah.
But I think that one of the conversations we always have is not just, do you want it? Because often we get approached by business owners who say, I'm getting killed in taxes.
Right.
I'm paying too much in taxes. Well, chances are, if you're doing it right, everybody's getting killed in taxes. But we don't want the tail to wag the dog. We don't want a adverse reaction to paying too much in taxes. Create a vehicle that isn't the right vehicle. And that's why it's so important not to utilize a big box store or a boilerplate payroll company to do retirement plans, because they're just checking boxes.
Right.
Local third-party administrators and ERISA consultants really care, because at the end of the day, at my firm, you know who I am, you know how to get a hold of me, and you know how to wring my neck if we do something wrong.
Right.
So we spend a lot of time to consult and make sure that we're the last third-party administrator a company works with by investing time consulting. And then our plan consultants, who I'm bullish on, I think are the best in the business, are highly consultative, are high touch. We're offering that boutique level of service and helping our existing clients figure out, is it time to add a defined benefit plan? Does that make sense? Should we contact your CPA and run some illustrations?
Yeah.
Because we want to make sure that we're providing a full service of options and solutions, even if now is not the right time.
Yeah. So you touched a little bit on 199A, and so for people that don't know, it's coined the 20% pass-through deduction.
Right.
So basically, self-employed people or people who own S corporations or partnerships, as part of the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, can take that pass-through income and deduct up to 20% of it before taxes are calculated. Now, there are certain, service corporations, professional service corporations, and or I should say, they call them specified service trades or business, SSTB. Certain service, specified service trade or businesses can phase themselves completely out of this 20% tax deduction. Right. And so one of the strategies that, we can talk about and, that are available there is, let's stuff more into a retirement plan so you could get this permanent deduction. Right.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think ultimately there's a very real and very pragmatic conversation that business owners who are having a high level of success are going to make a decision who they want to pay. Do they want to pay the government and pay taxes? Right. Or do they want to pay their employees? Because at the end of the day, you're going to end up paying somebody. And so what we try to look at are your conversation about pass-through and phase-outs. What's an individual owner's qualified business income? What is their W-2? What are their potential distributions? And can we help them achieve getting under those phase-outs and get that extra 20% deduction? Because really what we're doing is we're creating a vehicle to save for retirement and pay less in tax in a couple different buckets. And that story is really compelling. I think the last 3 or 4 years there's a lot of exciting things in retirement plans. And that's not something I've been able to say a lot of my career. Like this is a unique time, with the 199A deduction, with the Secure Act that just passed a couple weeks ago, with Cal Savers in California. We have a veritable cornucopia of different solutions and unique legislative opportunities to help business owners of all sizes and shapes take advantage of the qualified retirement plan market. So yeah, I think that story around deduction, though, ends up being our driver. I think that in the role of the ERISA consultant, I'm a baseball guy. I use a lot of baseball analogies. Yeah. It's a miracle we've made it this far without one. But I look at ERISA consulting, third-party administration, we're closers. CPAs, financial advisors are the starting pitchers. It's their job to get the ball rolling, get the game going. You call in the third-party administrator, and we're trying to close opportunities. Mariano Rivera, one of the greatest closers of all times, used to say he wasn't in it for wins and losses. He was in it for handshakes. Because at the end of the game, if he got a save, the Yankees always crossed over the mound for handshakes. Mm. That's the way we look at it. We're not in it for wins and losses. We're in it to create environments where we're giving each other handshakes with service professionals like financial advisors, CPAs, and ultimately with the plan sponsor, making sure they're happy. And we're really proud. Our retention numbers are, I think, some of the best in the industry because we're looking for handshakes and not wins and losses.
Yeah. So yeah, some exciting legislation. The Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, which was passed in 2017 and affected 18, and then everything's fully phased in now in 19. And then there are a couple other laws that were actually right. So one being, let me read this: the Setting Every Community Up for Retirement Enhancement Act of 2019, or the Secure Act.
Let's go with Secure Act.
Yeah, for short.
Yeah. So
where do they come up with these acronyms, right?
Yeah, man. I tell you what. And it's funny. I know there's a big week at my office because The Bachelor's debuted, and every year, if you're familiar with the show, they say the most dramatic season ever, right? Chris Harrison's always leading in with the most dramatic this or that.
Yeah.
I've been joking all week that the Secure Act is the most dramatic legislative changes to retirement since the 1986 Tax Reform Act. There are more changes and more opportunities, and there's a whole list of them, some of which your listeners will be interested in, some of which you care about, some of which aren't.
Mm-hmm.
I think if we talk specifically about the provisions around qualified retirement plans, I think there's some really exciting stuff. The setting everyone up element was really about trying to create access points. And this legislation, this law has created access points to create a better opportunity for business owners, more desire for business owners to set up plans, and then created some increased flexibility for individuals. So a couple of the big bullet points on from a plan sponsor or business owner level is they're opening up some of the flexibility around MEPs, or what they're calling PEPs, multiple employer plans or pooled employer plans.
Okay.
Creating the opportunity for small businesses that may not have ownership similarities or may not have association ties to pool their resources and start multiple employer plans or pooled plans. The idea being that when you buy in bulk, things are cheaper. Here's the only thing I'd say about that. Be careful what you wish for. I think that multiple employer plans are being bandied about as a solution or a cure-all for everything. I think a lot of businesses, especially in Orange County, like boutique. They like customized. They like flexibility. They're not in it to save 1 or 2 basis points. They're in it for the best experience. How do you make our HR team's life easier? How do you simplify this for us? I think MEPs and PEPs are going to have their place, and I think they're going to be very, very real reasons for plan sponsors to consider it. But for purposes of this conversation, I think the people who are probably listening are more interested in some of the other provisions, like setting up a plan. It's always historically been that you have to have plan documents signed by December 31st. It's why my wife and my in-laws generally aren't so happy with me around the holiday time,
Right.
because we're working overtime to try to get plans adopted and try to get plans in place to help business owners launch retirement plans. One of the new changes is going to allow, just like with a SEP, for example, on the profit sharing on the employer side, an employer to set up a plan in the following year prior to filing their corporate taxes. So it gives a business owner a little bit more flexibility to make a decision or consult with their CPA before setting up a plan, saying, hey, we had a really great 2020. It's now January, February. It used to be too bad. Now it's, hey, maybe we could set up a profit sharing plan for that prior year. So I think that's really exciting. The other thing that's exciting is often we hear about safe harbor plans. In the small and the micro market, safe harbor plans are the silver bullet in 401k plans. They buy, I'm using air quotes here, but they buy or grant small retirement plans or large retirement plans out of some of the compliance testing that is most cumbersome for businesses, the ADP, ACP test for 401k contributions. Safe harbor plans are awesome because if a plan sponsor commits to a safe harbor match of about 4% or a non-elective contribution of 3%, it buys them out of a lot of the compliance testing. But the rules around when you could set those up, when you could implement them, if you were an existing plan, could you add safe harbor, were always pretty draconian. And it was always really based on, yeah, you can do that for next year. The new law allows for some mid-year adoption and some changes, starting a plan a little bit later. That's really great because it's going to give business owners more incentive to set up plans. And speaking of incentives, I think one of the cool things about the Secure Act is that they have increased the tax credit. And this is something that you're going to want to make sure you guys update your side for. It used to be that setting up a retirement plan, a business might be able to get $500 over 3 years. Now, depending on the size and the scope of that, it could be $5,000 a year for 3 years.
Wow,
so
that's huge.
It is huge, right? Because one of the biggest complaints about working with local ERISA consultants or third-party administrators are costs, right? We have costs because we have the best professionals in the business. We're getting continuing education. They live in Orange County. Some of them are remote, but they're not living in places outside the US where cost of living is a lot lower.
Yeah.
So to run a business and to successfully provide the service that we do, it costs money. But the opportunity to have a lot of those costs defrayed by that tax credit is a really powerful tool and is going to incentivize more businesses, I believe, to set up their own plan. Finally, I think one of the exciting things is the delay in RMDs, or required minimum distributions. Historically, it's been 70 and a half, where either a business owner was forced to take one, or a rank and file employee who under a plan had a retirement benefit, they could opt into taking one. That age limit's now increased to 72. I think that we're all recognizing people are living longer, people are working later.
Right.
And so pushing RMDs off in both qualified plans and IRAs is a great thing for those people to not have to recognize the burden of that tax, that contribution, or that withdrawal. So some really exciting stuff and some really great stuff. We've been working on educating our plan sponsors, but there's a lot of stuff that's getting phased in over the next couple of years.
Yeah. Any cons to the Secure Act that
Yeah.
you've seen?
Yeah. So
Because all
yeah.
the stuff you said, increased flexibility,
Yeah.
increased tax credits, all that stuff's really, really good.
So I know there are a lot of my colleagues and people in my industry who think MEPs and PEPs are a pro. I think it could lead to a con as our industry further gets commoditized.
Okay.
But ignoring that, I think the two that I would say are penalties. So right now, a plan sponsor who doesn't file a 5500 misses their 5500.
Mhm.
They could be getting hit with a $25 a day penalty. Those numbers have increased by 100 times.
Oh
So
my gosh.
it's significant. $250 a day. There are significant penalties for failure to adopt retirement plans, which, again, just to put in a plug, not just for cross plans, but for any ERISA consulting firm, we have a sense of obligation, just like you work with your clients to get their tax forms filed timely.
Mhm. Yep.
My team is doing that 365 days out of the year, making sure that retirement plan tax forms are filed timely, and we try to help our plan sponsors avoid penalties. The big box stores, the boilerplate online solutions, plan sponsors are just a number to them. And I think
Right.
they're going to be incredibly susceptible to these types of penalties when the bundled provider says, oh, we posted a reminder about that on your portal, but you never went out and clicked it.
Yeah.
Whereas our team's calling, trying to get those things done. I think the only other penalty or challenge, I don't think it's a penalty, but there's going to be some challenges starting in 2021, phased in over the next 3 years. The idea of long-time part-time employees. It used to be that employers could set, statutory requirements that say, hey, employees have to work 1,000 hours and be 21, semi-annual entry. Could set some of these statutory requirements. And there you could have long-time part-time employees who were faithful, loyal employees,
Right.
who weren't able to join a plan. Starting in 2021, that's going to change. There's
Okay.
going to be an opportunity for those employees to join plans without penalizing the plan sponsor for non-discrimination, compliance testing. There's going to be some rules around it. The only reason I say it's a con is it's going to be an administrative challenge. I think that all these things, and it's a double-edged sword, right? Because the more sophisticated the tax code gets, the more business owners need firms like ours.
Yeah.
But then we have to go learn how to do this stuff and educate people. So I think by and large, the Secure Act was a huge win for plan participants and plan sponsors. And it's going to lead to a lot of really great changes for businesses and for retirement plan participants.
Awesome. I have one more thing that I want to go through. For those of you who are actually watching us on LinkedIn Live right now, please feel free to drop in any questions that you have, and we'll address them in a little while. Okay. So the last thing, okay,
Yeah.
which actually was kind of a surprise to me, that this law has been passed.
Cal Savers.
quite a few years ago,
Yeah.
but the provisions are just starting
Yeah.
to be implemented now, right? Cal Savers,
Yeah.
California employers.
Yeah.
Beware.
So Gabe, you're putting me on the hot seat here. So the Secure Act, we talked about all the pros and why it's largely a home run.
Yeah.
I think Cal Savers is one of those things that I struggle with. Philosophically, I think it's an incredible thing. And I think the state of California should be applauded for the idea.
Yeah.
The idea being that many large businesses, because of the costs, because of the non-discrimination testing, because of the administrative burdens of setting up a 401k plan, may choose not to. That's leaving huge swatches of our fellow Californians underprepared for retirement. They don't have access. And we all know that the retirement plan vehicle setting up automatic 401k deductions through payroll helps make saving easier, right?
Yep.
Because if the money gets pulled from my paycheck and goes straight to my 401k,
Mm-hmm.
I'm more likely to continue doing that than if I have to make a check or make a transaction. And so what we saw in the state of California initially in 2016 under Governor Brown and now fully launched and implemented was a move to simplify that process. Simplifying the process in the state of California is kind of an oxymoron, right? And so what happened was this idea of Cal Savers. It is an auto IRA solution that is being phased in for all businesses in the state of California.
Yeah.
So by June 30 of 2020, this year,
Mm-hmm.
an employer with over 100 employees has two choices to make or suffer penalties. One is to set up a qualified retirement plan and become, essentially be opted out from Cal Savers. Otherwise, a business has to essentially get into business with the state of California by adopting the Cal Savers, which is a complicated deal. I think, again, theoretically, you're providing access to retirement plans and to retirement savings for employees who may not have otherwise had that opportunity. But the administrative challenges, the burdens, the responsibility of the plan sponsor without professional experience guidance from ERISA consultants, it's going to lead to a lot of challenges. And I think you got a question because we can get into some of those challenges that I foresee.
I mean, just to kind of sit on the employer side, I feel like it's kind of an overreach by the government, as the government tends to do. But what about this program gives employees more access than like a traditional IRA or a Roth IRA, which they already could have done?
Which is the complicated element, is that it's an auto enroll plan.
Yeah.
Employees are auto-enrolled at a 5% level, which may be a significant, and it is a significant contribution, but maybe too much for employees working an hourly job who may be living paycheck to paycheck. The idea of having 5% taken from their income for retirement, again, sounds good philosophically and on paper.
Yeah.
But that may be the difference between putting their kids in a new pair of shoes or, creating an opportunity to put food on the plate. So the auto feature, the fact that a business will have to be sending payroll and automatically managing this for their employees and sending it to the state of California, is theoretically the access point, is theoretically the opportunity to make saving easier for a business, because there's no administrative costs to joining Cal Savers. Let's say it's a large company, and let's say you engage my firm for, this is an arbitrary number, I don't want to scare anybody away, but let's say it's a $10,000 engagement.
Yeah.
That's a lot of money for a business. A retirement plan then may have to undergo an audit from a CPA firm. Maybe that costs another $7,000 to $10,000. So a large company could be into a retirement plan for $20,000 in hard cost. Cal Savers is free, but you get what you pay for.
Well, it's not free. I mean, it's not free because
the administrative challenges.
The administrative challenges, internally for doing it. Nothing's free.
Nothing's free. Yeah, and I think it's always important that we acknowledge you get what you pay for.
Yeah.
I think that the other elements of this that are complicated are, since it's a Roth IRA, your payroll HR team are going to have to understand whether or not that employee is even eligible to contribute to a Roth.
Yeah.
Because Roth IRA has income phase outs.
Right.
I think it's around 137 as an individual, 203 as a married filing jointly.
Mm-hmm.
Not all HR people know if somebody's spouse or partner is working and whether or not that's, even a viable fit. Then you have the auto escalate. So in addition to auto enrolling people in this Roth IRA, plan sponsors on an annual basis, unless the participant takes action. And I think that's a really important caveat that we should go back, is that if a participant takes action and opts out, then they're out of it. They are not having that automatic deduction. The auto escalate feature is one of the things that worries me the most, because certainly in our world with auto enroll plans, we have auto escalation, but that's a complicated plan feature to administer, making sure that every year when to increase your eligible employees' contribution by 1%. That, from an administrative challenge and for your employees, can be a surprise, who all of a sudden look at their paycheck and it's 1% less. And so I think that there are significant reasons why a business owner may opt into working and setting up their own private plan. I think that uniquely the Secure Act, with their higher deduction levels, has made this a little bit more appealing as well. And so, as we talk about the tax credit being increased, offsetting some of the costs of working through setting up a plan and not going into business with the state of California on something else, I think that's going to be appealing to a lot of business owners.
Got it.
Yeah, and so when we look at Cal Savers, we really look at it in 3 phases. So before June 30th of this year, businesses with more than 100 employees have to make that choice. And I think when you mentioned the overreach, Gabe, I think you're talking about them maybe the next 2 years, because next year by 2021, any business with more than 50 employees either has to adopt Cal Savers or sponsor a plan. And then by 2022, it's any business with 5 or more employees. Yeah. And so you start to get into a much smaller market. And I think, that means for me, opportunity, right? And opportunity to connect with some of your listeners or plan sponsors to say, you're going to have 2 choices very soon.
Right.
Control your own destiny and set up a plan. And it's also important to acknowledge that the Cal Savers plan has no employer contribution. There's no match. There's no profit sharing. There's no opportunity for deduction. So having a conversation with your clients and listeners about creating a plan that they have control of, creating deductible opportunities versus going into the state's Cal Savers plan.
Yeah.
I'm optimistic about my chances of articulating why working with us will be better.
Yeah. I guess that's the takeaway.
It is. And again, I think that we all need to acknowledge we have a retirement readiness problem in our country. We do. I think that the big failure of the 401k plan over the last 30 years isn't the vehicle itself. The vehicle is amazing and the vehicle is empowering. And regardless of privilege or background or family, we know that the 8th wonder of the world is compounding interest. And employees who start participating in 401k plans early set themselves up better. The failure's been how we've articulated that to plan participants. Throughout my career, in just the last 10 or 12 years, I've seen that change a lot. When I first came into the business, we were talking about, hey, how much money are you spending at Starbucks a week? Well, just put that money into your retirement plan. There was no discussion of goal. There was no discussion of outcome. It was just thinking about it on a micro payroll to payroll level. And I think that a lot of the retirement plan providers in the area, a lot of financial advisors have tried to reverse engineer that and say, Gabe, what are you going to need at retirement? Are you going to continue to live in California? Are you going to maybe go to someplace cheaper? And say, all right, so to get to that goal at age 62 or 65 or 67, how much money will you need when you get there? And I think that approach, which can be uncomfortable, because saving can be uncomfortable, and it's certainly budgeting and saving.
So is dieting and exercise.
That's right.
It's uncomfortable, but yeah.
And so is working as a Walmart greeter at 76 because you didn't save for retirement, right? And so I think that, again, the big takeaway when we look at 401k plans is to imagine where you're going, save what you can, and recognize it may be uncomfortable, but start young, contribute as much as possible. There's umpteen slides and presentations showing how starting at 23 and putting in less versus starting at 33 and putting in more, how that 23-year-old is going to be better off at age 65.
Right.
Time as a compounding value. We all know that from our credit cards, right? You don't pay off your credit card each month, and whoa, you got to pay more the next month.
Yeah.
Same principle with retirement plans and savings, except hopefully as the market continues to grow and you continue to put more in, that retirement is going to accumulate for you. So start young, put as much in as possible, and try to maximize those opportunities.
Awesome. Okay, so where are we at? We're at about 40 minutes.
Okay.
We'll go ahead and wrap this up. So, Jordan, thank you so much for being on the show.
Thanks, Gabe. I appreciate the opportunity.
You. We'll probably have to do this again.
Yeah.
Maybe once a quarter or something.
Hey, I won't argue with that.
You have a deep breadth of knowledge.
I appreciate it. I think that this is a unique outlet for me. Usually when I'm on conference calls or meeting with people, they tell me not to go into the weeds. So this is a little different for a pension nerd like myself to get the forum to go deep into the weeds. And certainly as we see the Secure Act roll out more, we could go deep on some of those items as well.
Awesome. So how do people get a hold of you?
Yeah. So our firm, www.crosplans.com. We are located here in Orange County. We are independently family owned and fiercely independent. And we take phone calls. We do a lot of, like I was talking about, being a closer, not a starting pitcher. We support CPAs and financial advisors with meetings and presentations. And I can be reached at jordan.cross@crossplans.com or through LinkedIn or any way you can get a hold of me. But crossplans.com, all my contact information's there.
Awesome. Thank you, sir.
Thanks, bud. It was a pleasure.